Tonight, the White House is defending President Obama's use of the N-word as he continues to take heat for it. We'll get reaction from Al Sharpton, who joins us in a one-on-one interview. Also, lawmakers in Albany finally start making some deals as they try to deal with a long list of outstanding issues. We'll tell you what got done and what didn't. And then Bill de Blasio blinks. The mayor now favors adding more than 1,000 police officers to the force. First he was against it, now he's for it. So why the change of heart? Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Andrew Whitman, in tonight for Richard French, and we start with the continuing controversy over President Obama using the N-word. Here's how the White House explained it.
The president's use of the word and the reason that he used the word could not be more apparent from the context of his discussion on the podcast. The president made clear that it's not possible to judge the nation's progress on race issues based solely on an evaluation of our country's manners.
Of course, the folks at the White House aren't the only ones talking about this. This whole thing is causing a lot of backlash and generating a lot of support. Earlier today, our Dominic Carter got reaction from the Reverend Al Sharpton. Dominic?
Well, Andrew, President Obama has raised a lot of eyebrows with his use of the N-word. His strong ally, the Reverend Al Sharpton, is defending him. Reverend Sharpton, I have always known you, 30-year relationship I've known you, to be a strong critic of the use of the N-word. And now the president has said it. Does it offend you?
I think when I first heard he used it, I was surprised because he has said we shouldn't use it. When I read what he said, he really reinforced what we've been saying. He said just because you stop using the N-word, but he said the word, doesn't mean racism is over, which reinforced that the N-word is a racist word. He did not say yo N or say I'm taking the power out of it. He made the N-word the race word, and just because you stop using it doesn't mean racism is over. In many ways, it reinforces what we said, that that word is a racist term. And by him saying, just because you stop using a racist term don't mean racism is over, is to reinforce our definition of the N-word, where others are trying to say the N-word doesn't mean racism no more. He, in the context of his sentence, he established and affirmed that it does mean racism, and people stop using it to say, I'm not racist no more.
But Reverend Sharpton, can you imagine if another president of the United States had used that word? I mean, my God, there would be calls for impeachment.
Because you never had another black president. I'm sure if Hillary Clinton gets elected, she could say things about women dyeing their hair that nobody else could say. Imagine if a man had talked about women dyeing their hair. So the fact he is black and he has been the target of racism, he could define what racism is or isn't. Just like I'm sure if Mrs. Clinton wins, she could deal with pushing the envelope on gender bias and on and on and on.
Reverend Sharpton, but in 30 years, and I've been around you in personal circles a lot, I have never heard you use that word, and you have chastised rappers for using that word.
But rappers didn't use the word in that context. If I would choose, I would want nobody to use it in any context. But I can't say in the context he used it is what we've been protesting. I can say that I don't like to see or hear the use of the word. I've used it years ago. I don't use it anymore at all.
Now to what happened in South Carolina and more with the Reverend Al Sharpton, someone who was stabbed in the chest in 1991 as he was about to lead a protest march in Bensonhurst, and admits, that is Reverend Sharpton, that he is greatly concerned about his own safety. Sharpton actually told us today that anybody that walks up to him could be asking to shake his hand, asking for a picture, or trying to blow his brains out.
It hit home because this is not even police. This are not young black males in the street. You're talking about an 87-year-old woman in Bible class. We can't go to Bible class and be beyond this. And the chilling thing is, what happens in any of our churches or our rallies? And what happens if a copycat says that's a good idea? All of this goes through your head. me as visible as I am, I wake up every morning, Dominic, understanding that there are people in America that wish I didn't wake up. To have to wake up knowing the hate against you personally, as well as your people every morning, and keep fighting anyway. People act like this is celebrity. This is celebrity. That boy represents to me the risk we face every day. And if we don't start taking that seriously, this country is going to go all the way backwards.
There was more regarding safety from Sharpton. He is also concerned for the safety of the President of the United States, and he criticized the Secret Service.
I'm concerned more than I was before, because now when you got a 21-year-old kid walking up, who would have ever seen him and said that's a killer? And I'm a bit more concerned because my visibility is even higher than it was when I was staffed. But I'm always conscious of what happened, because just as you said, Dominic, you were one or two reporters that was able to see me immediately. They had to operate on me to make sure it moved away from my lung. The scar's still on my chest. Every morning I shave, I look at that scar. This stuff's real to me. This is not about news and celebrity. This is real to me. And I wouldn't do it if I didn't believe in it, because I know anybody that walks up to me could be asking to shake my hand, asking to take a picture, or trying to blow my brains out. And I know that because it happened to me when a man stuck a knife in my chest.
Why Reverend Sharpton, is your voice cracking?
Because I don't think people understand that I, like anybody, want to see my children grow and be prosperous. And I don't have a death wish, but I have accepted the burden of following what I believe that I was born to do. But at least people should respect the fact that others will go and take the risk they won't take. But I think a lot of people think there's some joy in this. There's some very great moments, but there's a lot more risk than there's great moments.
Reverend Sharpton, these are tough topics, and I don't mean to go there, but it is required to do so. Do you worry about the safety of President Obama?
I definitely worry about his safety because we're in a very dangerous world. And when I look at him, I look at the fact that not only do you have guys that are haters here that guys like me have to worry about, you have terrorists. You have all kinds of forces that would want to get to this president. And then he's protected by Secret Service, that people jump over the wall and get all the way inside the White House. So I'm very concerned about the president. And I give him a lot of credit for being able to deal with it with the ease he seems to deal with it.
Dominic, let's start back with the initial part of the conversation about the use of the N-word. And the Reverend says he wouldn't want anybody using it. He doesn't use it. Anymore. Somehow it's okay when President Obama uses it. Why is he looking at this as a teachable moment, or does he just give the president a pass on this?
I don't think he's giving the president a pass. I think that, and he didn't use the word teachable moment. He used the word putting it in a historical perspective to prove that racism is still alive and well. And based on what Mr. Sharpton says, that was the point that he believes that the president was trying to make and did make.
Does Reverend Sharpton, I can't imagine there's a lot of people who really think that racism isn't still alive and well, especially given what we saw in Charleston last week and so many of the other incidents.
Well, you would be surprised. A lot of people, a lot of Americans point to the progress and say, hey, you know, if it's such a bad country, this country elected an African-American president. So that's normally the argument that is made against racism. And
any conversation with the Reverend about the fact that people are now talking about the N-word and the use of the N-word as opposed to the larger issue that even he says the president was referring to, which was racism in general, and how you pivot from that conversation to the wider conversation about racism?
Well, he didn't go any further in terms of discussing it, Andrew, but I've known this man and covered him as a journalist for 30 years. And to be candid with you, for 30 years, I've been telling him, you better watch your own safety, Reverend Sharpton. This is not a joke. And I would say this to him before he was stabbed in the chest. And I remember when I arrived at the hospital, the late Mike McAlary, a journalist for the Daily News, we were standing there at the bed and he was unconscious with tubes everywhere. So it wasn't a joke when he was stabbed. But I have never heard Al Sharpton say that he worries that somebody might try and blow his brains out. And you have to understand how, I guess I shouldn't say this from a security point of view, but how easy it is, they are stepped up these days with his security, but how easy it is to get close to him. And what, if you will, has really thrown him off is that the 21-year-old suspect in this case, you don't see that coming. And so we're going to run the entire interview on Thursday night. And surprisingly, we asked him about Hillary Clinton. We asked him about who would be the toughest Republican against her. He's going to discuss that. A number of things that are on his plate. He also believes that Mayor de Blasio of New York City will definitely have a second term.
Final question just on the president. We talked about his concerns for the president's safety and some of the concerns about the Secret Service. There have been a number of incidents that have shown what seem to be weakened Secret Service. I guess the concern is, or how concerned is he that something like that might happen? And I think it's something that everybody was concerned with when we elected the first black president. I mean, it certainly came to a lot of people's minds.
Well, Reverend Sharpton did not say this, so I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I believe his sentiment is, as you just said, the first black president, why are all of these lapses in security occurring with a force that's so great as the Secret Service? And so, but I've never heard him in 30 years talk about the fact that he could lose his life. And so it was amazing to actually hear him say that.
Love him or hate him, he is always a fascinating interview. Looking forward to the rest of the interview on Thursday. Dominic, thank you. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Albany is playing a game of deal or no deal. Rent control, taxes, a monitor for East Ramapo, education, all that and more that needs to get done. We'll run through what they accomplished in their big deal today and what they didn't.